Yo, what's up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, kind of with one that's a little bit concerning. If you haven't been paying attention to the league news, if you're not on NBA Twitter, first of all, you should be on there, because if not, you're missing a lot of news and my tweets. Twitter in the description below. But mainly, there's a lot of issues going on with health and safety protocols. A lot of players are encountering COVID in a lot of different ways. There's a new variant and everything like that, and it's kind of getting out of hand. I have a full list over here that I'm going to read off of every single player that's in health and safety protocols. And keep in mind, most of this has come within like the last week or so. Last 2 weeks, last 3 weeks. It's been over the course of this past month, especially, that cases have really ramped up. So I found this list. Shout out to, let me find his real quick, KY_PDX. Shout out to him for sending me this list. I tweeted out on Twitter. He was the first one to respond. So shout out to him. Go follow him on Twitter. But the full list: Jabari Parker, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeAndre Bembry, Bruce Brown, Javon Carter, James Harden, James Johnson, Paul Millsap, Alize Johnson, Troy Brown Jr., Zach LaVine, Ayo Dosunmu, Stanley Johnson, Derek Jones Jr., Matt Thomas, DeMar DeRozan, Javonte Green, Kobe White, Isaac Okoro, Serge Ibaka, Avery Bradley, Russell Westbrook, Taylor Horton Tucker, Dwight Howard, Malik Monk, John Morant, Caleb Martin, Bobby Portis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Dante DiVincenzo, Wesley Matthews, Kevin Knox, Quentin Grimes, RJ Barrett, Obi Toppin, Georges Niang, Marvin Bagley III, Terrence Davis, De'Aaron Fox, Precious Achiuwa. That took me like a minute to read off a full list of every single player that has been in COVID, or that currently is in COVID protocols. That's not even everyone who's had it this season. It's kind of getting out of control, and it's bringing up the question on my timeline a lot. Is the NBA season in jeopardy? Are they in jeopardy of canceling it? And I personally don't think so. I don't think the NBA is going to give up. I think they'll go back to stricter protocols. I think they'll keep pushing booster shots and stuff, but I don't see the NBA canceling it. But it certainly is a possibility. There always is a chance. And it's kind of scary. What I really think might be the solution, and not that there is really any solution at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised if the NBA takes a break. And I don't mean like they shut down, they're like, okay, we're going into shutdown, we're going to go back to the bubble type stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if the NBA does a thing where they give it like a couple weeks. They say, everyone is kind of dealing with a lot right now. We're just going to shut down for 2 weeks. And I think that could be a good way, kind of just shift the schedule back 2 weeks into the future. I think it wouldn't be too bad. And it might be a move because a lot of teams right now are dealing with a lot of big issues. If you saw, especially a team like the Chicago Bulls, like I just read off, Alize Johnson, Troy Brown Jr., Zach LaVine, Ayo Dosunmu, Derek Jones Jr., Matt Thomas, DeMar DeRozan, Javonte Green, Kobe White. That's 9 players. 9 guys right now are dealing with COVID issues in the Bulls organization alone. The Bulls have been hit the hardest out of almost any team because of this, and it's going to hurt them a lot because right now they're at the top of the Eastern Conference, and because of these COVID issues, they might lose a couple really crucial games that could come down to like a matter of having home court advantage in the playoffs if there's a big tie, or falling to like the 5th or 6th seed or something. It's entirely possible, and it's unfair to a lot of teams that are dealing with these issues. There isn't a great solution. It's not these teams' fault for this happening. It's not like they are getting reckless or anything like that. Every team is following protocols as far as I know. I haven't seen any tweets from Woj or Shams about teams not following protocols. It's just kind of happening. And of course, as always, the question is the league and is the season in jeopardy? And at first, I want to say no. My first instinct is there is no way they shut the league down again. Like I said, I could see them maybe doing like a couple week break or something like that, but I cannot see them shutting the league down. But at the same time, I really didn't think it was a possibility when it first happened. When COVID first came around, I really didn't think that it was at all going to be a potential issue. I thought maybe it would affect us a little bit. And then, of course, the consequences of my own thoughts show up, and the Thunder are the first game to have their game canceled. And following that, the NBA season is suspended. We lose months before we get to the bubble. The bubble is great. They did a great job of bringing that back together. But I think everyone would rather see fans in crowds, players playing in stadiums. But it's a question of how realistic is it at this point? The Toronto Raptors have already had, I believe there was some kind of mandate issued by Canada or just the province of Toronto. Don't know a lot about Canada, to be honest. But they issued something where they're limiting the amount of fans, I think to like half at sporting events, probably including the Toronto Raptors home games, which is a big deal. Because we went from having no fans to this season fully ramped up. Every single team has fans back for the first time. The Thunder didn't have fans for like a year and a half. And they finally come back, and now teams are being hit really hard. So do you go back to having empty stadiums? Maybe that's a solution. Maybe you just cut down the amount of fans. Stadiums they've issued things saying you have to be vaccinated. In a lot of places, you have to have a negative test proof if you're not vaccinated. Like, they're doing all they can. It just seems like it's really hard to shake this problem. And it's a question of how long is this going to, of course, affect the world, but affect the NBA in kind of a smaller context. It's not something that's really going to go away. So how do we deal with this? And it's going to be interesting to see what the NBA does. Where do they go? Because a lot of fans are asking for their team's games to be temporarily canceled. There are a lot of Bulls fans that I saw that were like, please, NBA, don't let us play this game because we're going to lose these games and it's going to cost us. Thankfully, the NBA gave them this past week off. I think they postponed 3 games. I want to say it was 2 games to give them kind of a little bit of a reprieve, to give them time to kind of chill, see if these issues kind of mellow out a little bit for them. They're not, they're still getting hit very hard with it, but they're having to sign players. They've got to bring in guys to fill in those gaps. And also a team like the Los Angeles Lakers that have already struggled to start the season. Now they're going to be without Russell Westbrook for potentially 10 days. If he is in the full length of protocols, I think it's about 10, 12 days, depending on when you get 2 negative tests. So that's a long time to go without a guy who's been probably your second best player behind LeBron James most of the season. And they're already struggling. And for a team trying to build chemistry, it's causing a lot of problems. This is a valuable time that they need now to get ready for the playoffs. You need this time to build chemistry, fight for the higher seed to get home court advantage because they really struggled without it against the Phoenix Suns. They're missing crucial time. So the NBA has got to make a decision. Do you temporarily postpone this thing? I really don't think there's any way that there's a full suspension for like a long period of time. I could see them doing like a couple week reprieve and kind of just giving teams a break. Does the NBA go that method, or do you go with stricter protocols? You go with kind of reverting to what you had last season, where it was don't leave the team hotel, only team approved activities, even if you are vaccinated, or maybe it's like if you get a booster shot thing, maybe you can kind of go out more. I'm really not sure. But right now, the NBA is in a weird spot, and this is a super pivotal moment where they've got to kind of make a decision, and this, once again, could set the tone for all of sports. We're kind of seeing in the NFL right now, they're dealing with a lot of health and safety protocol issues. There are other leagues. I'm not sure about hockey or soccer. I don't watch those that much. Of course, the MLB is not during their season. They're in like a lockout right now, so they don't have to worry about it this much. But the NBA was the one who really set the precedent by shutting down their season. When they canceled the Thunder game and shut everything down, every team or every organization, sports-wise, seemed to follow. So if the NBA decides to make this precedent of having these kind of like week-long breaks, that might be something that's kind of followed in other sports. So the NBA kind of has a big moment where they kind of make a decision on this whole thing. And it's reached the point where I'm not even shook when I see a player that's in health and safety protocols. When everything first rolled around, when we saw players in health and safety protocols, it was a massive deal. Everyone was talking about it. And now Shams and Woj are dropping it like it's like draft day news. They're like, oh, it's like when Woj tweets out the draft picks beforehand where he's like, oh, this team is zeroed in on this guy. This person is targeting this guy. But now it's like this player's in health and safety protocols and they're going to miss 10. It's hard for me to keep up with it too. As like a NBA YouTuber, I'm talking about all these games and I'm trying to remember who didn't and who did play in this game because a lot of people are just missing time. It's a mess. And something's probably got to happen. I don't know how long you can go like this and some teams just get screwed. It's not really that fair. So maybe the couple week break is the way to go. Maybe you give these teams just kind of see if it fixes itself. And if it doesn't, stricter protocols. I'm hopeful. Like I said, I don't think a suspension is coming. I don't think we're going back to the bubble. There's no way something like that happens. It just won't. It cost them a lot of money. It was really difficult to set up. And at this point, we're too far gone from all of that to kind of go back to it. But of course, it is a question. What's going to happen to the NBA? If you're a fan of a team that's dealing with a lot of these issues, I'm sorry. The Thunder, thankfully, have been one of the most... I don't think they've had anyone in health and safety protocols since this whole thing started, which is kind of amazing. So far, as a fan of the Thunder, I've been super fortunate, as well as the Thunder players and the organization as a whole have been fortunate that no one has had to kind of go through this. So I really don't understand. I can't attest to how much it sucks. As a fan of a team, I can attest as an NBA fan, it sucks to see guys miss time. And of course, it does just hurt the guys. Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris, 2 guys on the Sixers, it's not just all asymptomatic cases. There are symptomatic cases going on. It's a real thing that it can really affect people. Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris said it kicked their butts when they had it. And so it's not only a matter of teams missing games and unfair sports-wise, it's how long do you go with this before people start to continue to really get hit by it hard? We'll see what happens. I kind of just felt like I needed to make a video talking about it. It has just really gotten out of control. I just got it out of the new Spider-Man movie. If you haven't seen it, it's really good. I highly recommend it. I'm not going to spoil it. Don't worry. I won't spoil it on Twitter or anything. So if you want to go follow me on Twitter, description down below. But it's just like I came out of the movie and like 5 new people have COVID. So can't really figure it out. Let me know what you thought about all this in the comment section below. Let me know what you think the NBA should do. I hope your team is doing all right. Prayers out to all the players that have it. I had it personally back in January. I know how much it sucks. Like it really hits hard. So, I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later. Real one say back.